I don't think I've become an artist. Hello, my name is Pratyay. I am a sound artist and music composer based in India. And right now, my artistic practice is revolving around the fields of new media and acoustic ecology. So I'm basically working with sounds from natural environments, but not just any ordinary natural environment. Natural environments which are contested or has a kind of conflict and has these complex relationships between human and environment and other factors as well. So I'm studying these environments at the moment. So I've been to two places where I've worked with the sounds of those places. One is in West Bengal and Bangladesh. So I've been to this mangrove forest in West Bengal, which is called Sundarbans, and that is my current project, which I'm working on right now in ICST. And also I've been to this hill station in southern part of India, which is called Valparai, and I've recorded sounds in that area as well. Lot has emerged from these recordings. So when I'm listening back to the recordings which I've done on field, lot of intricacies, lot of relationships, the human voices, the sounds of the environment, animals, trees, how different objects in the ecosystem are interacting with each other, what are the impacts of the behavior of one object on the other, and these kind of different multi-layered relationships are coming out from the sound that I've recorded. So that is basically my practice, to go into this kind of a forensic listening into those sounds which I'm recording in the field, and then analyzing them, creating sound pieces out of them, and creating that kind of an ambience where people get that virtual acoustic space which is created from the field. So I have been born and brought up in the city of Kolkata, which is a historical city in India. It's in the eastern part of India. And I have grown up in a family which is very creative and artistic. Both my parents are musicians and my mother is also a painter. So, and my dad is a professional vocalist and teacher. My mom is a painter and a teacher. So I've grown up in this kind of very creative and artistic ambience where I've learned Indian music from my childhood days. I've learned singing professionally. And the learning in India is always through listening. So it's very much different from the European context, where the learning in India is through oral and oral traditions. So whatever I've learned throughout many years is just through listening. So that practice of listening and learning was already within me, and then I could use that kind of an for practice to gain access into this sound arts field easily. So when I started composing experimental composition and sound arts and acoustic ecology, it was not very difficult for me, though the subject is very complicated and complex. But for me to navigate into this field was not very difficult because of my background. And so yes, that was my training in Indian music. The point that you mentioned about the rules and traditions of Indian classical music, yeah, there are a lot of rules when we talk about North Indian classical music or South Indian classical music. But there has also been composers who have broken down those rules and created new kind of musical structures from them. Like the composer and Nobel laureate from India, Rabindranath Tagore. I've learned his music, and he has basically deconstructed Indian rags into a lot of new kind of melodies and phrases of melodies and created songs out of them. So this kind of deconstruction was always there because I was learning his music from my childhood days. When I'm creating my own field and own kind of trajectory, this learning and composers who have deconstructed, and I've learned them in my childhood days, so that has helped me a lot. right now lot is happening with sound and sound arts, and a lot of people are working in this field and deconstructing many kind of narratives. So yeah, they are also kind of a big inspiration for me. I am going to these areas of natural environments which have this kind of complex multidimensional nature, with multiple relationships between objects. So I'm currently working in this mangrove forest, which is the largest mangrove forest in the world. It's in India and Bangladesh, Indian state of West Bengal and Bangladesh. So 40% is in West Bengal and 60% is in Bangladesh. So I have done my field recordings in the part which is in West Bengal, which is in India, and I have taken those materials and come here to ICST. So basically, that is my practice. I have visited two places in the Sundarbans. So I have visited two places in this mangrove forest, which is very multi-layered. Lot of interactions between the human and environment. There are 5 million people living on the fringes of this forest, so it is very densely populated, and so the interactions between the forest and the people are very kind of rough. Um, Earlier, more people used to go into the forest to get resources for their livelihood, but now there is more rules for conservation, so people are not allowed that much to go into the forest to get the resources. So it's also a very huge struggle for people to sustain their livelihoods. So a lot of people are also moving out from that place to search for jobs in other places. And also in the forest, due to the climate change and due to the continuous ecological changes that are happening, the forest is also under a lot of pressure. It's under a lot of stress because there has been 3 or 4 super cyclones which has hit this area in the last 10 years, and the sea, the saline water has come into this kind of delta system, estuarine waterways. A lot of that was freshwater before, now it has become saline. So farming is not also possible now with the saline water inside the delta region. So it's kind of very contested now. It has a lot of factors going on, and the southernmost part of this area is going underwater. So the southernmost islands, there are, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 102 islands in the West Bengal part of the Sundarbans. Southernmost islands are going underwater, so people who are living there are having to move northwards into other islands. So the impact of climate change is very much visible and it's happening very fast. So I think when I'm recording sounds in some places over there, after some years these sounds may not be existing, so it may all go underwater. So this is my current project. I have a lot of recordings from that place which I am using here in the ambisonic setup. I want to say something about the objective of the project and my vision, like the greater vision of capturing sounds in these places of conflict. Right now, the equipment that I was using, I could only capture like ambient sound and like voices. In a way, I could capture these sounds in a more general way. But now I am getting new equipments where I can narrow down and go into the micro sounds and go into specific kinds of sounds. Like I can capture underwater sounds. I'm getting contact microphones so that I can capture solid surface vibrations and transmissions within solid surfaces, which will give me more access to what's happening in the micro level, so that I can analyze them and then study them in a way so that I can get the bigger picture in a more clear way and I can understand what's going on. So that is my objective, basically, to go into more detail of the sound or the sonic architectures that are present in these spaces. And also politically, it is very important to bring the attention of the administration of the governments to these kinds of drastic changes that are happening ecologically. I think most of the governments and the administrative services are not very much informed about the micro level processes that are going on every day and every moment. This will also, I think, help in making policy changes regarding the health of the habitat, both human population and the non-human population, animals, other species that are present in these areas.
যেমন আয় করেছে সন্ধ্যাবেলায় সারাদিন বাগদা ধরেছে, 3,000 টাকা পেয়েছে, সন্ধ্যাবেলায় এসছে 3,200 টাকার বাজার করেছে।
When I first came to ICST and I saw the studio, and as a first impression it was like amazing and like so huge setup. It's fascinating for me. And then when I slowly started getting into the intricacies of the technology and the nitty-gritties of how everything works, I became more and more interested in this whole ambisonics technology. As a When I saw it first time, it was like just a wow moment, and I was amazed to see all this. But when I started really going into depths of it with Johannes helping me a lot, now I am thinking of implementing in this more in the future to realize my own imaginations or my visions with sound. Because what ambisonics does is it creates this kind of a 360 space, which is actually very natural, because in when we listen in this kind of 360 degree way, which is not true for the eyes because we can't see what is behind us. But for the ears, we are listening in a 360 way, and we are always basically listening in ambisonics, where the length, breadth, height, everything is taken into consideration when we are listening. So creating that kind of a sound in a studio is like very fascinating, and manipulating the sounds in a way, moving the sounds from one place to the other, playing with the distance, because here at ICST the technology supports manipulating the distance as well, where you can put the sounds far away and bring it closer to you, and that makes the sound more physical, and the material and physical quality of the sounds start to emerge when you play with the sounds in this way. When I listened to my own field recordings, which were made in stereo, but I converted them into this ambisonic setup and started listening to them, lot of material qualities of the sound started emerging, and I started listening to lot of details which I couldn't listen when I was listening in the stereo format. So this is like a whole new world for me, and it's brilliant. I think for a person who is new to ambisonics and listening to an ambisonics piece for the first time, it will be amazing, I feel. It will be a totally immersive experience, where the person might feel that that person is standing or sitting in that particular environment where the movement is happening, the sonic movements. So yesterday or day before yesterday, I was listening to this piece by one of my favorite composers and sound artists. His name is Philip Samartzis, and Philip was here in ICST some years back, and he was doing his project on sounds from the Jungfrau mountain and glacier. And I was listening to a piece where he has captured sounds from Jungfrau glacier and the research station. And sometimes I was discussing this with Johannes, and he also had the same feeling, that we were actually feeling cold, but there was nothing in the room, but just by listening to the sounds we were feeling that cold. So this immersive experience of ambisonics can do this. So yeah, I think someone listening to this will be experiencing this, and the awareness of that person will go higher up. Right now I'm making a composition which will be played as a piece, like an ambisonics piece. I'm trying to develop a methodology of composition which can be applied to any kind of environment with these objects of like human, environment, and the different other objects which are specific to the Sundarbans. So I am trying to make a compositional methodology using my field recordings and also audio programming to explore this kind of a generative soundscape process. So I want to create a generative soundscape from these field recordings. It is a great privilege for me to work at ICST, and also I would like to mention the collaboration between the ISRO and ICST, and the residency has emerged from that collaboration. So the ISRO is basically the Indian Sonic Research Organization where I was working before, and I would like to thank Yashas, the director of the ISRO, Yashas Shetty. He has supported me a lot and my work. And also I would like to thank the people at ICST who have selected my proposal. And I was really excited to come to ICST because my favorite sound artists and composers whom I look up to have worked here. Like I was talking about Philip Samartzis. So Philip has worked here. Then I've met this very experienced and respected sound artist, Kathy Lane. She has also worked here. She's a professor in London, professor of sound arts. Also sound artist and researcher Budhaditya Chattopadhyay has worked here. I have listened to one of his pieces here. I'm a great admirer of his work. I follow his work a lot. So that's why ICST was also very inspiring, and I was looking up forward to coming here. And yeah, so it's amazing. Hi.
Hello.